All right, everyone. Today I'll be showing you some basic sketching techniques to sketch this example that we have here. I found this example on Learning Suite under the Lab2 video resources. I can just download it here, and it's in that zip folder. I've got an beginning example, an intermediate, and an advanced one. So for this video, I'll just show the basic example here, and we'll talk about a few different sketch constraints. One thing I like to do before I start my sketches is I check two things. First of all, I want to show all the planes. That's just a personal choice. You don't have to do that. For me, it makes it easy to visualize what I'm doing when I can have all these planes visible. As well as I want to check my units. For this drawing, we don't have any units on it, but I'm just going to change it to millimeters because I see here 60. I doubt that that's going to be 60 inches. So I'm just going to change it to millimeters, but again, you don't have to. Now I need to select a plane to sketch on, which is going to be my front plane, and I'll open up that sketch. The first couple of constraints that I'll show you here are the horizontal and vertical constraints. You'll see here we have some horizontal lines as well as some vertical lines, and I'll show you some different applications for those constraints. But first we'll start by sketching a rough outline of these lines. You'll notice that as I sketch, if I get close to horizontal, it'll snap to that and actually put the horizontal constraint there, which is nice. But for the sake of this, I'll actually make it pretty bad so that it won't throw those constraints on, and we'll have to do it ourselves. Okay, so now it doesn't quite look like this shape, but it will here in a second when I start adding these constraints. So I'll start with this line here. It's already selected. Oh, just kidding. I'll start here, and I'm going to make that one vertical. So all I have to do is select it and make it vertical. There you go. Then here, I just need to select it and make it horizontal. And then this one, I need to select it and make it vertical. And that's it. All I'm doing is I'm clicking on those lines and I'm selecting them and applying those constraints. Now something that's cool is you can also apply vertical and horizontal constraints to points. So like this point here is vertical and with respect to this one. So if I select this point, press Control and select this other one, I can apply that vertical constraint. Now no matter what, no matter where I move these things, those ones will always be vertical from each other. Now we will use what's called the Smart Dimension tool. There's a few ways to access this tool. One is just by clicking here. Okay, so I'll just click here, and I'm going to first put on this 60 millimeter constraint. And obviously it's a little bit big, so I just need to type 60. Okay, and it kind of shrunk everything down. All I'm doing is when I'm in this tool, I select what I want to dimension. So for example, I'll select this line. And then I just move my mouse wherever I want to move it, click again, and I can type in a dimension there. So we've got 40. Where are some other dimensions we can throw on easily? We've got 20 here. And looks like these lines are equal in length. So I'll show you, I'll put on an equal constraint. The way I do that is I select this line, press Control and select this line, and then I select equal. Perfect. And so now no matter where I put these lines, those two will always be equal. I can't move it up and down because they'll be equal, which will save me from having to add some other dimensions because I have that constraint. And here, going back to the Smart Dimension tool, I will add in this 20 here from that point to that point. You'll notice if I go to the side or to the top or even diagonally, it will give me all three of those options. All I'm doing is I'm just moving my mouse in those directions. So I want the top one first, 20, and the bottom one, which is 10. Oh, just kidding. I actually don't need to put that 10 in there because this equal constraint, SolidWorks is doing the math saying this is 20, and this gap here has to be the same as this gap here, and so I don't need to put the 10 in there. Which leads me to believe that this shape will no longer change size, but it will move around because I haven't defined its location in space. And so I will do that very quickly by adding a couple more constraints, something called midpoint, where I just hover over the midpoint of this line. It gives me that, where I can select it. I'll Control and select this one, make it coincident with that plane. So you'll notice now up and down where these black lines are, that's fully defined, but I could still move left or right. And so I will also make the midpoint of these lines here coincident with this plane. Okay. And you didn't necessarily have to do that as you're making the sketch. You could put this corner here and just make it coincident with the origin, and that would also fully define your sketch. So you see here I'm fully defined. But I like to do that because a technique that I use is I always model everything around the center as much as I can. There are cases where it's in fact less useful to do that, but I like to do it most of the time. And so I've kind of centered this part on this origin as well as I could. And so everything, the outline, is fully defined. Now we need to put in these circles. And so I can do that by sketching all these circles. And I can put them here. You'll notice they're different sizes and they're not where they need to be. And that's okay because I want to show you how to use constraints to make them the same size and to put them where they need to be. So first things first, I'm going to dimension this circle here to be 10 millimeters in diameter. That was as simple as hitting Smart Dimension, selecting that circle, and typing in 10. Now I can actually apply an equal constraint to all these circles. If you notice, they're different sizes and none of them are dimensioned aside from this one here where I can't change the size of that one. But if I select this circle and all the other circles, I can apply an equal constraint all at once and they'll all become that 10 millimeters. It's kind of cool. Okay, now I'm going to define where this circle is, or actually I'm going to define the relationship between this circle and the other ones. So I will do that by using horizontal and vertical constraints again. Again, it doesn't have to just be a line, but it can be points in reference to other points. So I will make the center points of these two circles horizontal. I'll do the same here with these ones. And then I'll make these ones vertical. And these ones as well. Basically what I've just done is I've created a rectangle essentially with circles at the points. So wherever I move these circles, they will be in relationship to each other. And that makes it nice because it'll save me from having to dimension a lot of different things. And then now it's just a matter of putting in these last dimensions here. You can see when this drawing was created, it was made about this origin. And so some of these dimensions actually go to this origin plane here. So this 15, although it looks like it's floating, it's actually to that plane. And so when I put it on here, I'll go to that plane and that will be my 15. And then as well as this 7.5 is going to this plane in the middle. And so I'll do 7.5. And then we've got a distance between the two of 15, which tells me that they're centered about that line. 15. And then looks like I just need one more, and it's 10 from this to this center plane again. 10. And you'll notice now we're fully defined. So by taking advantage of those vertical and horizontal constraints, I was able to save myself from having to dimension the center point of every single one of these circles because I just made them in line with the other ones. So hopefully you learned something about those constraints here and you're able to create this shape.